Hello and welcome back to our how to paint Tau tutorial. We're still working on these kind of stealth battle suits. We've done pretty much the kind of primary colors that we want for most of them now, and we're kind of just cleaning that up. And I think for this episode, we're going to kind of change things up a little bit. We've kind of been doing all three of these at once, but I think I kind of want to focus down just one at a time. That way we can kind of get a good understanding of what the final product is going to be before we really start doing all three of them. So that should give us a little bit easier of a time going forward. We are going to be moving on with a little bit of Abaddon Black to start out with, just because there's a little bit that we need to clean up that we've already done, and also there's some bits that I need to freshly paint. So we're going to try it out, and hopefully things still keep looking nice for us. We'll use our kind of sergeant guy here as a good indicator of how things are going. And I just want to start kind of with this backpack. I do need to clean up a little bit on the back here, the lower half of the torso, but also I want to, I think, do the majority of the back of this back piece kind of black, and then we'll do like white highlights, and then I think we might even go in and do some kind of silver lining, no pun intended, on some of the kind of raised up areas. And I am using a new brush today. I've actually got a ton of new brushes. I ordered these off Temu, excuse me, Temu, and they were super, super cheap. They're not great quality, gotta be honest, but that's kind of what I expected. I just kind of wanted something that I knew was gonna be kind of throwaway, because I hate having nice brushes. That's like my one thing I will not invest in very much for my painting supplies. I like good paint. I like good models. Good brushes, on the other hand, no thank you. Because then I get kind of afraid to use them, and I'm very, very habitual about having to clean them too often, and it's just more of a pain. So having brushes that I don't really mind kind of wasting and throwing out and replacing constantly does make things just a little bit easier for me, at least mentally, I guess. So that's kind of my justification for it. Maybe it's bad. Maybe it's not the best justification in the world, but to me it makes sense. So I'm gonna keep doing it, and I'm actually gonna try to get just a little bit more paint on our palette here. I think I mentioned it last time, but my Abaddon Black is actually kind of running out, so it's drying out a lot quicker than my other paints normally do, which is unfortunate, but that is something we just kind of have to deal with. I mentioned last time as well, I think, that I was going to pick up, or that I was downloading the new Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I've got to say, it's pretty disappointing all around. It took quite a while to download because, of course, the Game Pass for PC app is terrible. I don't understand what's wrong with it, but like the download speeds are just ridiculous. Like they are so slow. And for a comparison, I can download games pretty quick if I use like Steam. Um, we'll say like a good 60 gigabyte game, right? Because that's what the new Black Ops was, just for the multiplayer and zombies, which is another whole issue, but we'll get there. So if I'm doing like Steam, maybe it'll take like 20 minutes ish. Like I've got pretty solid download speeds. Using the Xbox app, it took about a day and a half, like 36 hours worth of constant downloading. And I just don't understand. I really don't. I've tried to troubleshoot it. I've looked online at, people have suggested like all these fixes, like re-downloading the app and reinstalling it, changing like your Wi-Fi types and connections and whatnot. None of it works. Absolutely none of it. So I really don't understand what the issue with it is, because it's not like it's not a me thing. Like I've checked, my computer, my hardware, my router. I've reset all of it. I've checked all the settings. None of it's a me issue. Steam works perfectly fine. If I'm downloading from like Mod Nexus or something, like the download speeds on that are fine, and those are capped. It's absolutely insane. I don't understand how you mess up an app so badly. But there you go. So besides that, it was already a frustrating experience, right? Just downloading the game. I started playing it, and maybe it's nostalgia. Maybe it's just the fact that I've gotten a little bit older, and it's just kind of a natural thing. But like old Call of Duty, and I say old in quotation marks because it's actually not that old. um, but like, for example, the peak of Call of Duty for me was Modern Warfare 2, right? Like on the Xbox 360, doing split screen with your friends, Mountain Dew, Doritos, like the whole shebang. That was like peak Call of Duty. So that's kind of what I base all my experience off of. Back then, like I'm not gonna say I was like the best, but I was pretty decent. If I was playing like team deathmatch or free for all, I'd get at least like second place, like on my team. Maybe like third if I'm doing kind of bad. If it's like a really rough match, like fourth or fifth, whatever, right? But like never really at the bottom. And that's not even like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm better than everyone else. That's just kind of the way it worked out. And skill based matchmaking was like still a thing back then. Technically, I don't think it was really used as heavily as it is now. Um, but even with that, like pretty consistently, I was doing pretty well. And it seemed like it was more of a casual thing. Like people were just kind of more relaxed in general. Playing the new Call of Duty, like every single person in every lobby that I've played so far, I've played maybe a dozen games, is just full on like it's a life or death situation. That's how people play it, and I cannot stand it. Like, take a minute to breathe. It's really rough. The first match I played, and it obviously like with skill based matchmaking, you have to play a couple games before the game kind of figures out like where you're at in terms of skill. The very first match I got dumped into, it was a team deathmatch, and I think everyone on the enemy team had like a 4.0 KD by the end of it. Like, I just got absolutely wiped and dragged across the floor, and it was frankly kind of embarrassing, but like at the same time, I just kind of sat there in disbelief. Like these people, for the maps are like 5 minute rounds. Uh, I think all 5 minutes, like these dudes were just sweating so hard because even like trying to play casually, like by the end of it, I was just really feeling it. Like it's really taxing. Um, but I feel like it could also be chalked up to like a skill issue. Like I don't think I'm bad compared to what I used to be, but I'm definitely not the same pace as I was like a decade ago. I'm still decent, right? Like I still get into the occasional lobby where I can do pretty well, but for the most part, like it seems like the general skill level has just increased so much, and it's kind of insane. And it's to the point where like I can't even enjoy it now because like no one's casual anymore. I really don't get it. But again, you can chalk it up to a skill issue. The game itself, it's fine. I mean, it's Call of Duty. I'm not gonna bash it for being what it is because I kind of expected that going in. The gunplay seems fine. I think the Omni movement thing is kind of gross. I don't like it. But again, and maybe that's just me being the boomer that I am. Not literally, but I don't know. Something about it just doesn't really gel well with me. I think it's just getting used to the kind of keybinds and everything. But overall, I mean, it's not bad. I don't think it's quite as good as Modern Warfare 2019 was. I think that was much more of a enjoyable experience all around. But it's definitely playable. It looks good. I'll give them that. I think the gunplay kind of feels well. The matchmaking's a little bit rough. I had like tons of packet loss and like connection hiccups when I really shouldn't have for some reason. So I think that kind of definitely needs a little bit of a fix. But again, maybe it's like a Game Pass thing. I don't know. Overall, though, it's not bad. I do want to say though the download size is ridiculous. and this is kind of like a known issue now. It's kind of memed at this point. Let me put this in perspective, right? Dark Souls 3, which is a pretty sizable game, and it looks great even today. It's, I think, 25 gigabytes in total, and I think that includes, no, maybe. I want to say that includes the DLC. I'm not sure. But like the base game at least is only 25 gigs, and it runs great. It looks good. It's well optimized. The base game of Call of Duty, if I went to just install it normally, and this was like with zombies and multiplayer and the campaign, it started me out at like 120 gigs minimum just to install it. And it also tried to give me like Modern Warfare 3 and Warzone and everything. I'm like, no, no, I don't want any of this. I just want to install Black Ops 6. But even with all that taken off, even with just the multiplayer and zombies, which is like the smallest package you could get, it was 60 gigs. And, that's for a handful of maps, a handful of guns, some character skins. Like, where's the optimization? What am I missing here? How is that at least double the size of Dark Souls 3? I don't get it. I really don't get it. But yeah, that was my experience with it so far. I think it's something I'm gonna kind of keep going back to and trying out every now and then, just if I want to, suffer for like 5 minutes at a time. But overall, I would not recommend it, especially if you're a little bit of a older gamer, because man, the stakes are raised so much with today's gameplay. There's the skill minimum has increased like tenfold. It is ridiculous. But there you go. That's my gripe for the day. In better news, though, I have been playing Factorio. The new update came out. The new DLC is out, which I didn't pick up yet. But I have been playing Update 2.0. I've honestly got to say it's a good bit of fun. The map generation has changed. There's a bunch of quality of life features that got added in that were kind of like necessary mods before. But now they're just, standard, come with the game, which is fun. And I've been enjoying that quite a lot. It will consume thousands of hours of your time, though, if you let it, so be a little bit careful of that. Overall, though, great game. Highly recommend it. Much, much more than I could ever recommend Call of Duty. As I throw things around here. So there you go. Go check out Factorio if you don't have it already. I promise you will not have a bad time. And actually, as we kind of move forward a little bit here, I do want to compare our guys. So I do need to do some black on the top of the legs as well. I picked this guy because I thought this was the one that we kind of finished up the most. No, turns out it's not. This was the one we haven't really touched any of the black on yet, so that was kind of my mistake. I thought we'd be moving along with this much quicker, but that's alright. Moving on, we're going to focus on this guy first, and we're going to finish him up before we touch the other two, so we should be doing a lot more progress in the next episode at least, and with like the second half of this one. And I am being a little bit messy with adding the black on here, but I'm more just aiming for speed at this point rather than quality, because we can kind of fix things up next time. And I don't want to bore you guys too much with this black, so I at least want to get one more color in here. I think that's going to be our blue. We're going to kind of go over some more stuff with. And we'll do a little bit on the back of the other leg. And I think that'll kind of do it for us. Man, I also mentioned at some point, I've been playing Sunhaven, right? I picked up Sunhaven. I don't know if I talked about it yet. Very much a Stardew Valley kind of clone, but in a good way. Highly recommend it. There's so much to do, though. It's a little bit off-putting. But I've been loving it so far. I've put a handful of hours in. And honestly, it's a fun little romp. I've enjoyed it greatly. So definitely check that out if you like Stardew Valley and you want something more like that. Definitely a solid game. And there we are. We are going to move forward now just a little bit. And we're going to go back to our Techless blue. Let me clean my brush off a little. That way we don't ruin this blue, actually. And after a little bit of a good shake, let's pop it open. Now, first and foremost, I want to kind of touch up these shoulder pads a little bit because, and actually, you know what, I mixed water in with this blue, which is annoying. I always forget it's a layer paint. It doesn't need really much water, but it's fine. I do want to kind of clean up these shoulders a little bit because they look kind of patchy. And then we will move on, I think, to the big face in the middle. That needs another layer. And then we'll kind of do some other little bits that we need to touch. Like this little minigun here. This, I don't even know what you want to call this. This little like circle thing. I definitely want to slap some blue on there. I want to be a little bit careful about this because I don't want to ruin our white. And we've got to go at it from another angle just to make sure we get proper coverage. There we are. And I think there was another, yeah, there's another one on this side. I was going to say, if I didn't get it now, I'm going to forget about it and we'll never get to it. So might as well knock it out while we're here. I definitely want to go through once we're finished with all of our base coating and when we get to the point where we can do a wash, I want to do a lot of panel lining. At some point I want to invest in, I think Vallejo does like an ink panel liner. But for now we were going to do it the poor man's way and just non-oil it. And hopefully that'll kind of look decent. If not, though, we'll just do multiple layers. We'll really kind of pack it on. And maybe we'll mix it in with a little bit of Agrax just to kind of dirty up some of these armor panels. But overall, that's kind of the only plan I really have in terms of weathering things and kind of making it not all just pure white, at least on the armor panels. I think that'll kind of be all we need. But we'll definitely see going forward kind of how it looks. And I want to be a little bit careful not to get that bottom piece of the shoulder there. I might have done it in one of the other guys, but we'll go back and kind of fix that. I think maybe we'll even do a little bit of silver on that kind of bottom tip just to diversify a little bit. And perfect. And there we are. Just this brush, actually, I was kind of dogging on it a little bit at the start because it's not very good quality. You can tell, like just looking at it, it's not very well made. Like clearly just pumped out of some Chinese factory. But it's actually doing some decent work for us, so I won't dog on it too much going forward. It's definitely earned its place a little bit. We'll see if it holds up. I don't have much trust in its longevity, but I've got like 30 of them, so it came in a big pack. And actually, once we get to the end of this episode here, I do want to show off kind of whatever else I got in my Temu package. Again, I don't support their practices. I know they do like some shady stuff with their like legal slave labor over there, and that's a whole conversation for another time. I don't think a Warhammer painting video is the proper place to talk politics like that, but I do want to mention I'm aware of that sort of thing, and I don't condone it, but at the same time, it's cheap deals, and I'm a glutton for Warhammer stuff, so I'm gonna keep buying. Anytime I see Warhammer stuff go on sale on Temu, I snatch it up. And every few weeks it seems like they kind of change up their stock a little bit, so yeah, I'm not a paragon of virtue or anything. I do not pretend to be. But there we are. And kind of lastly, just to kind of finish this off, we are going to do one more layer on our face here, just to make it look nice and clean. We don't want any patchiness. And I think that about does it. As we kind of wrap things up here, and I'll move on to kind of showcasing what I got here in just a second. I do want to point out that I have a Patreon. Link will be in the description as always. If you guys enjoy this channel and want to help it out, that's a great way to do so. Otherwise, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate all of that. And for now, that's kind of going to be our little sergeant here, leader. I don't know what you technically call him, but he's got the antenna, so he's in charge. Next time, we'll kind of focus on the backpack a little bit and clean up our white panels everywhere. And generally, this guy should be just about done. We'll throw some washes on, and once we're finished with that, we'll focus on the other two. Shouldn't be too many more episodes, but definitely a couple more at least. And as a kind of final little bonus treat, I'll show off what else I got. So I got a ton of paintbrushes. I've got like 30 of these things, and they're all different colors. Pretty cool. I also got this little Warhammer pin, the double eagle. Pretty cool, pretty cheap. I got that for like $1, which was, much cheaper than you can find it on sale on like Amazon or something. I also got this, I forget the name of it, the battle prayer papers, the oath papers. I always blank on the name. I know what they're called, but I always forget. They have these on Amazon. You can buy them, like the official ones, and they're pretty expensive. They're like $13 for each one. I got this for like $2. And the text, if you can see, is like kind of low res. And it looks a little bit jank. I have another one, which is on my work backpack. And it's got like 2 of those little strips of paper, and it looks much better. But they were like, I don't know, $2 each. So, yeah, super good stuff. Definitely check out Temu if you like Warhammer stuff. That's my big tip of the day for you. Otherwise, hopefully you enjoyed this episode. I will see you guys next time.